You want a breakfast, not ole and eko, or akara or akamu, like Papa Akande. You can't run a state like Osun. You cannot live in Ikoyi and run Osun State. It will be extremely contradictory. Your lifestyle is different from that of people you want to govern, except that you only want to be called excellency for nothing. You cannot, if you cannot live the way they live, you can't lead them. You will merely be deceiving them because they don't have income. They don't have idea. Therefore, for you not to hold salaries in a state like Osun, Ekiti, which has lowest allocation of pension account, your lifestyles must reflect the kind of people that you want to govern. And what do I mean? Don't overinflate contracts. It's ungodly, it's anti-people, because they don't have the means to pay, whether now or in the future. The state will continue to be indebted to the next generation. Number two, okay, if you want to be governor of such rural states and you don't want to hold salary, the fundamental priority of the government of the state is about people, politics. Is that those who are running the state public institutions, civil servants that are running the state, either from the cleaner of the governor's office or the sweeper of the street, first and foremost, when you get the state education, pay them their wages. I don't live in my state, for instance, I don't practice law there. Therefore, I do not expect anything from Wadebeshola. But the cleaner in Ido-Osun or Ede or Hawu, pay them their money. And whatever is left, do development, because development is not for dead people. They have to eat. So I am in agreement, and therefore, when I hear the governor says, I cannot pay the salary now, after all, I can't use the money for salary payment. I don't work for the state. Pay those who work for the state.
Okay.
They run the state
let me
for the
bring
government.
Dr. Dele in now. Is it a question of not having the capacity to pay or the willingness to pay? We need to separate it. You know, talking about money, bailout funds were deployed to the state, Pari Fund, and the rest of them. You have the IGR. So the question is it about the state not having the capacity to pay, or the political, will to do the right thing in terms of pay? A state like Ekiti is dominated by public servants or civil servants, unlike a state like Lagos, like you just said. So, Doctor, what's your thought about that?
Well, I suppose it has to do with the capacity or lack of it, and the question of priority. I agree with my colleague. The primary purpose of the state is the social welfare of the people. Where the people are poor, or where the people live on the streets, or where the people are impoverished, to defeat the purpose of government, to defeat the purpose of political leadership. I agree that Ekiti, maybe we should do a short a political, economic historicization of sort of Ekiti. Ekiti is a rural economy, and most Ekiti, like most of the states in the federation, depend on the federation account. And the Ekiti has an internally generated revenue of about 400 million. Could we possibly compare it to 30 billion monthly for Lagos State government? So 400 million will be a drop in the ocean. But nonetheless, the challenge for most of these states, particularly the rural states such as Ekiti, is to discover new avenues to raise revenue and to block loopholes. My colleague made a point earlier, which I consider germane. Most of these states are poor, but the governors, with due respect, make the states poorer. Because there are leakages, there are forms of corrupt practices, and contract splitting, contract manipulation, and so on and so forth. But on the whole, Ekiti state might be a poor state, but what the least we expect of Ekiti governor and the political class is that the state should define its priority within the limits of its resources. And the primary emphasis should be on developmental concern. And developmental concern should begin with the salary and remuneration of workers. Because these workers will have worked for a month and they decide to end. And where they do not end, you understand, you will appreciate the fallback, the implications for the dependents. Ekiti is similar to Osun, where a worker has about 10 dependents, and where is not paid salary, it affects about 10, 13 people. So the challenge is to raise internal material. I'm aware that the Ekiti state government is owing between 4 and 8 months salary. 8 months salary. It's unfortunate to owe a worker 8 months salary. But the question I should be asking with due respect, is the governor owed salary? Is the deputy governor owed salary in Ekiti? Is the speaker of Ekiti House of Assembly owed salary? Are the members of the House of Assembly owed salary? Is the majority and deputy majority leader and minority leader in the Ekiti House of Assembly, are they owed salaries? No. If they're not, then there's no basis to owe Ekiti workers salary. The government should redefine its priority, and the priority should be the Ekiti people. The Ekiti people and the welfare should be the focus and the fulcrum of development.
All right, Barrister, let me stay on you. Pundits have come out to fault the delegate system of electing candidates that will represent a particular party, like having a primary election and you have the delegate system, which is a sizable number of persons that would decide who the aspirants might be, leaving out the vast majority. For example, if we have an Ekiti state that is close to 3 million, for example, and we have a delegate system that would just sizable to 1,000 or 1,005 to present a candidate forward. Don't you think, one, the voice of the people has been disenfranchised? Don't you think they've been boxed to a corner at this particular point in time?
I cannot agree less with you, and I say this because it is part of the fraud of political class. It wasn't by accident that they made it look like that. Look at the constitutional amendment that's going on in the National Assembly in Nigeria, the issue of independent candidature. It has never been allowed to see light of the day. The same thing goes for delegate elections. I don't think it's democratic enough for people to say 2 people from each local government will form delegates that will choose state governor, or probably senator that will represent the state in the 3 senatorial districts in the state. And all of us know that the governor of the state determine who is the local government chairman, determine who are the councillors in the local government, which means that the governor, by implication, is the one who still has the delegate in his pocket. If the governor is bad, the delegates will be also bad because it will be people of the same character. And therefore, if we're going to do the general election by 1 man, 1 vote, universal adult suffrage, why can't we allow the state to have election of delegates in one day, or choose a particular day when within the party structure, candidates will be elected to represent them at the national fora, rather than have delegates that are unpicked by people that were unpicked by the governor of the state, and governors that are also supported by the federal government on political party basis. When the focus of everybody is good governance and how to put food on the table of an average Nigerian. If you look at our position on the UNESCO data, in terms of literacy, you'll be very sorry for us. Now they say that we are one of the worst countries, has the worst level of poverty all over the world. This should evoke pity in the mind of Muhammadu Buhari. And even Fulani man, the Boko Haram, people that are fighting the Niger Delta militants, they should be concerned that how can we subject ourselves to a level that they say we're the poorest in the world, and we should change our situations. And I say this because if you look at the whole issue of this delegate or no delegate thing, over the years we have bad delegates. They will make bad policies. In turn, society suffer for it. For me, I don't believe in it. And we should change that kind of scenario. It cannot continue because it gives us no good. I tell you what, when Baba Jesse was governor from those states, there was a story that says that one of the rooms in his house was leaking. And then they brought to him a bill of 25,000 naira in those days that it would cost to repair the room. And the old man, God bless his soul now, said, please, add that money to teacher salaries and pay them. It is criminal for a governor to ride a Range Rover 1918 model costing 120 million and you have a salary of 2 days. It's ungodly, and that's why in all the state administration of Nigeria, not more than 2% of the governors have the interest of Nigerian people living in those states at heart. Because I don't see how a governor will sleep when you have a salary of 2.5 years, 8 months, and you go to sleep, and you wake up with the money, enter a vehicle that is as much as 70 million naira. I just say we'll have sold that vehicle to pay some people. Those were when we have leaders. Now we have robbers.
All right, let me please hold your thought there. We'll go on a short break now, and we'll be back to take live updates from our correspondents in Ekiti. Don't go away, stay with us.
This election is turning on its own, and I want to refresh your memory that the last election we had in Anambra, we deployed 26,000. We never went there to oppress. We never went there to militarize the place. And we also had some shortfalls. There were 1 or 2 isolated cases of ballot snatching because of the lack of presence of the security operatives. Our trade analysis and the activities we're going to perform, this 30 that you are going to see, I assure you that there will be no occupation of areas that characterize that of dominating and intimidating. You will never see any such, and take me for my words. And I told you I had 26,000, and that was not enough for Anambra, an exercise that has just finished. Trade analysis, activities, we also want to protect national assets. We want to protect and ensure that everywhere that there's supposed to be presence of police to guarantee civility and total participation by the well-informed citizen of Ekiti. The only way to do that is to ensure that you put men where there are threats and trade analysis of state. You are not going to see anything different from what you will go around to see today. Both sensitive and non-sensitive materials have already been delivered. We're going to secure that. We're going to be very robust. We're going to post 4 police officers in a polling booth and 2 other officers from other security agencies. There are 5 inlets and outlets into this state. We're going to ensure that there is a static point where randomly people will be searched to ensure that those that are coming have something to do with election and not those of them that want to precipitate crisis and raise the bar of security challenges for us. You are going to have a very, very calm and a very, very serene environment for people to exercise their franchise and nothing more.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has distributed all sensitive materials to the 16 local government areas of Ekiti State. The development followed the Commission's reception of the sensitive materials from the Central Bank of Nigeria on Thursday. The exercise witnessed heavy security presence inside and outside the Central Bank premises in Ado Ekiti to forestall any breakdown of law and order. Fielding questions from newsmen after leading party agents to inspect the sensitive materials meant for the 16 local government.
All right, you're still watching Election Watch, reaching you from our Lagos studio. And now we want to link with our correspondent in Ekiti. Dele Fason is standing by to give us updates from Ekiti. Dele, hello, how are you? Hello, Dele, can you hear me? Okay, I think we'll get back to that. Now, let me come back to our guest in the studio. Now, you have 34 political parties jostling for one seat in a state like Ekiti. What does that suggest to you? Let me push this to Dr. Dele. What does that suggest to you? 35 political parties, just one seat. Why Why the interest? Why is the stake so high?
Well, if you ask me, why not 35 political parties? Why not? Do you know why I'm raising that question? It does appear to me that the political space within the major parties is narrowed and limited and monetized. You know, it does appear to me that whoever will be a candidate, you know, the party must be rich, must have resources, and so on and so forth. But the question is, should the candidates be necessarily rich or wealthy, you know, to contest political elections? If you ask me, the other parties, which were in some quarters, you know, are called minor parties, is healthy for political development in Nigeria, particularly within the context of Ekiti. You know, the Ekiti populace will have the window, you know, to listen to other candidates and to listen to the political program and agenda of the other political parties.
Okay, I think, sorry to cut you short.
Yes.
I think we have Dele standing by. Hello, Dele. Good morning. Can you tell us the situation of things in Ekiti right now? Okay, I think.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly 8 o'clock. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you? Hello, Dele.
I'm with you, I can hear you.
I would like you to paint a picture of what is happening where you are in Ekiti right now.
Yes, within Afao, which is just 5 meters drive to a place called Ekiti.
Okay.
And that Ekiti, a very unfortunate incident happened there, but except for the quick intervention of the police, it would have been a bloody case.
What exactly happened in Afao Ekiti? Can you tell us? Give us.
Yes, in Ekiti, some youths were said to have been armed to a particular police unit 4. And they were with money to share money, but the police had to block them on their way. There, they were molesting the policemen, who later went up to mobilize more enforcement before the youth ran away from the scene. I spoke with some of the community leaders here who were telling me it was just a mix-up, who denied the allegation, although the police could not speak because they say well, they were not in position to speak. But they said they are looking for a leader among the youth, who they refer to Otumba Bisi, who they said they are on the manhunt for because he was armed and led the youth to the scene.
All right, can you confirm to us, Dele, if accreditation has started and if there are any, you know, if there's any itch or any setback in that place? What's the situation like?
In Afao Ekiti, in the places we visited, most of the over 10 wards and units, accreditation and voting started by 8 o'clock simultaneously, which is the hallmark of what INEC says. And everything went well. We did not have any cases of malfunction card reader. Even in Ekiti, the voting and accreditation went out simultaneously too. And with a large turnout, you know, it was an impressive turnout everywhere we visited here. And one of the things you must give kudos to the security agents around here as at this time, because they were so civil in ensuring that people go and cast their votes unhindered, while the soldiers are nowhere near the polling booths. But once in a while, you see them patrolling with their civilian uniform, not their usual camouflage, which they are known for. So presently, the voting exercise is going smoothly, large turnout, and waiting for the governor to come and vote here in his ward.
Okay, Mr. Dile, what is the situation of the weather report? Is the weather friendly as at this time?
Very and it's sunny here. It's really sunny here. You know, it's a climate weather. You know, everybody, a lot of them was praying that the rain should not come because as early as 6:30 a.m. when we got there, the weather was very cold and the cloud was misty. So, but along the line, before that 8:30, the sun is out presently as I speak with you.
Okay, at this point, has there been any plot of rigging where at that particular polling unit you are?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I said at this point, so far so good, has there been any plot of rigging at that particular polling unit you are?
Nothing of such as the places we visited in this Ekiti Central. No, we've not seen anything like that. There was no rumor of anything like that. In every location, there are men of the DSS, the fast-track squad of the Nigerian police patrolling where I'm standing here, just at the front of the palace of Afao of Ekiti. So there'll be no cases of rigging except the one that vote buying that was allegedly reported at Ekiti.
Okay, at this point, do we have issues with regards card reader at that particular polling unit?
No issue. I said that in my earlier statement that the card reader, when I asked the presiding officers, they said there won't be any problem that they have backups. But when they started, there's not been any hitch of card reader malfunctioning.
Dele, let me ask you, can you, let us know how fast, it will take an electorate to cast his vote from your observation in that place?
In Afao and Ekiti, the two communities, with the time we spent in over 5-10 polling units, it did not take more than 1 minute for a particular person to accredit himself and voting. To 1 minute, and it is very fast and well coordinated by the security operatives.
Did you observe if anybody without PVC is around that place, as stated by INEC? INEC gave the instruction earlier that anybody without PVC shouldn't be around the polling unit. What's your observation about this as regards where you are?
Yes, men of the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, I think are effective in that, because in most of the primary schools, you see them at the gate. They call people to put all of their PVCs before going inside. And if you have no business around this area, there won't be any need for you to come in. So I think it has been effective because most people in here are those with their PVCs, and it has been going well in other areas around here.
Okay, can you still, tell us, maybe in the course of your interaction with some of the voters there, their impression about the exercise?
Yes, some of the community leaders in Afao, Ekiti, and the youth leaders, when I spoke with them about the exercise, what all of them were saying in common was that the deployment of security operatives was their major fears, but they later found out that it's now been a blessing to them, because the security operatives were the ones that were even directing them to where they will vote. So they don't have problem with the arrangement because everything has been orderly.
All right, thank you very much, Dele. We'll get back to you in the course of our broadcast for the election.
Thank you for having me.
It's a privilege. All right, that was our correspondent, Dele Fason, calling in from Afao and Are, Ekiti. All right, Dr. Dele, I would like you to react to, the impression being painted by a correspondent as regards, the voters' apathy.
Well, I can't recall the mentioned voter apathy, did he?
No, he talked about, the interest, the overwhelming turnout in Are and Afao. So what's your impression about that?
Okay, well, the stake, the stake in Ekiti election is quite high. And the stake has generated significant interest, in the governorship election, in terms of who becomes the governor, what party emerges, and so on and so forth. and I expect that the high stake will equally elicit impressive turnout. But it's still early to draw conclusions about the level of turnout, about the significance of the turnout. I recall that about 664,000 actually collected the PVC. So we'll expect to interpret, post-election, what percentage of the 664,000 will have voted, the governorship election. And that will also be interpreted in terms of the 16 local governments. That should give better ideas. Well, secondly, I suppose the reporter spoke at, at a specific location, a local government, which is Afao, and a neighboring town. So there are 16 local governments in Ekiti, I suppose, and we should wait to get reports of at least 2/3, to make generalizations and to draw conclusions about level of participation or otherwise.
Okay, you were saying something about the multiple party system we have in Nigeria, and I would like you to continue with that.
Yes.
Let's look at the merits and the demerits compared to what we used to have in the past. We've had instances where we have 2 political parties. Now we have multiple party system. Can we do a comparison?
Well, I can't recall the time we had 2 political parties in Nigeria, except under Babangida.
We once had SDP.
When the National Republican Convention and the Social Democratic Party were decreed by the military. If you check the pattern of the development of political parties, at every point in time where 2 political parties exist, they're not necessarily decreed, but 2 parties become dominant, evolve over time. And that's the experience of the United States with the Democratic and Republican Party. And same for the British political system, Labour and Conservative Party. We should bear in mind that the 2 political systems are not characterized by 2 parties. There are minor parties, but the 2 parties are dominant. But beyond that, I am comfortable with the splinter of parties for the gubernatorial elections. And these are the reasons. One, the major parties, the contestation in the major parties is heavily monetized. And it has to do with the godfather who has contact towards godfather. It has to do with the size of the pocket of the aspirants. It has to do with the size of your wealth and so on and so forth. But the minor parties, permit me to use such word if it does exist, gives the window for aspirants and candidates who are not very rich, who are not very wealthy, to canvass their positions, So majority in the long run might have their way, but the minority should have their way. The other candidates and the other parties should have the window to tell the Ekiti people what their plans are, what their political programs are, what their political agenda are. Secondly, you recall that INEC, the Independent Electoral Commission led by Professor Atari Jega, attempted to stifle the political space, and to that extent, you recall the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, led by the late comrade Barrister Gani Fayemi, and Alhaji Balabi Musa went to court, and the court gave a judgment which is subsisting, that parties cannot be outlawed, and political parties should and must flourish. So if you ask me, the flourishing of political parties, in the case of Ekiti with 35 parties contesting for election, is consistent with democratic practice and democratic principle. So you might, the other side of it is, well, how entrenched are the political parties? Do the parties exist in the grassroots? Do the parties exist in the local government? Are the parties known to the people? Well, my response would be this. Party evolves. We cannot possibly float a political party and expect such party to succeed politically within a year or 2. It takes a while. I expect that the other parties, I'm reluctant to mention these other parties, are parties for the future. It will take a while for these parties to build the structures, to build the institutions, and develop in the consciousness of the Ekiti people. I would say that the elections in 2023, or in 2022 rather, in 4 years, will be far more competitive I expect that these other candidates and these other political parties will be a lot more entrenched in Ekiti politics and the Ekiti political space in 4 years.
Okay, let me bring Barrister Dele into this. Now, we talked about, the multiple party system.
Yes.
Don't you think it's also responsible for the huge sum, being allocated or deployed to election, logistics and processes in Nigeria? Is that not a factor?
It is a factor. I personally do not believe in all this numerous party political process that we now.
Because if you have 35 political parties, INEC will you spend more money in printing ballot boxes and the rest.
Number one, apart from that, I understand. I've not really confirmed very well that there's some amount of money that were given to each political party by INEC to organize themselves, and I want to believe that that money is one of the incentives why people just to form political parties. Number three, I understand also that the bigger parties also register splinter parties who also will go on the field, and in the course of electioneering, they come and say, okay, they have marched together, whereas these younger parties were actually owned by the bigger parties. All these are not beyond an average Nigerian politician. So for me, I don't see the need for multi-party system because it stretches the logistics of INEC. And even the political process is hampered because our literacy level is very low. By the time you have 35 political parties and with their different logos on the ballot paper, an average woman that's sensible but not lettered in the formal educational sector begin to look for how to identify the party of our choice, the candidate of our choice. In the process now, we're forced to say, please, come in your party and in the process, the person that she does not have in mind gets shown to her, and then she's on print, and then that's the good vote wasted. Does not reflect our choice, is our choice. And therefore, what do we have for this party? Some of them cannot even win a ward in all the elections, even though there are one-room parties to comply with the INEC conditions for party registration. You have them maybe in 2/3 of the wards in the state. You have one room, one cabinet house, say Argument Party of Nigeria, one room, secretariat. Dodo Party of Nigeria, one room, secretariat. At the end of the day, when the election is conducted, they don't win a single local government ward. And they go to INEC with their big Ghana must go to collect money they are giving political parties. And where are we deceiving ourselves? There's an electoral law is put in place. But if we know that in reality, what we see is not in accord with what we have designed, must we stick strictly to what we have designed when we see that it's not working and it's counterproductive? This is another thing about Nigeria. People will import foreign ideas because they are close to people in government. They sell the idea, they buy it. But that idea they are brought from England or America or Canada is not working, but they still stick to it because it's an idea that is coupled with money for the boys. We must evolve a Nigerian homegrown democracy that will keep our resources within the limit and what we want to achieve by them. So I don't believe in it.
All right, Doctor, let me stay with you. Listening to what our correspondent said with regards some youths giving out money to allegedly to some electorates before they were being stopped by some security operatives. Same also, there's been clips of that since yesterday and even before now. When we place this vis-a-vis the primary system, the delegate system, it has become a situation of the highest bidder. Whoever has the highest bidder becomes the highest bidder. Where do we go from here? If electorates who are supposed to go to the polls with clear conscience in trying to change the norm are being induced and are accepting to be induced, does this make sense to you? Where do we go from here?
Well, you're stating the obvious. It doesn't make sense, and it's quite unfortunate. But my initial reaction would be this. The reporter mentioned a specific location, and the reporter has not told the studio that the instance of monetary or financial inducement is pervasive. He has not said that.
No, we've had a case this morning from our reporter, the one in from Ado Ekiti.
Okay.
We've had one this morning.
Yeah.
We've had about from yesterday as well. So it's been on. This was just actually stopped because the police intervened earlier.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, it's still early to draw conclusions about the influence of money on this election. I wouldn't draw that conclusion as a political scientist because I'll need to consider some variables. I'll need more facts that is sufficiently representative of Ekiti State in terms of the 16 local governments. It's still early, but I appreciate that, money politics has been a recurring feature of Nigerian politics. Monetization of politics. The question is, how do we transcend it? How do we go beyond it? We made the point earlier. I suppose what induces money influence in politics is the stake of political office. The political office is heavily attractive, and it's a question of you win and you win all, or you lose everything. So each fraction of the political class is desperate to win power and to avoid losing. And to that extent, the political class resort to all forms of inducement, including financial. Okay? And that again is tied to a form of political representation, which is the majoritarian system. Majoritarian system is first past the vote. Simple majority wins, and that is it. And the simple majority gets to power, appropriates, resources, expropriate resources, and so on and so forth. I said it in this studio, and I said it repeatedly. We need a new philosophy of political representation in Nigeria. We need a new philosophy. Our political culture is such that it's predicated on majoritarian system, majority rule, and the losers go to sleep, and the loser loses up. We need a new form of political arrangement where political power, is shared, at least between 2 or 3 majority, parties. And that could encourage a form of compromise. And that will also will likely reduce political tension and the struggle for power, for power in Nigeria. So the question about delegate election, well, I appreciate the fair you have. The delegate process has characterized the primaries, that produce the gubernatorial candidates in the elections. And the delegate process has been characterized by all forms of perversions and abuses. There are no doubts about it. But we need to, as a people, rethink the delegate process. Well, in the first instance, we need to consider if the delegate process should be sustained or abandoned, or should we resort to direct elections? What could be the advantages of direct elections? Can the parties possibly manage direct elections? There have been instances of direct elections to produce candidates in the recent past. Well, these processes were equally characterized by violence, and hijacking of ballot materials and so on and so forth. So some of the parties resorted to delegates, to eliminating some of the fringe, elements and private armies that could intrude into the political process. Well, do you know what? My response would be this. You know what? Political process of a state or society is not a one-off kind of. We think and rethink it, and it will evolve in the long run to reflect our specific historical realities. Nigeria is still an evolving polity, and we have not had most aspects of our political system and political culture defined, and settled. We're still evolving.
All right.
Still evolving.
Thank you for that. It's still Election Watch and Ekiti decides. And let me remind you once again that you can be part of this discussion via our social media platform. That platform is there for you to hear your opinion, whatever you have concerning the election taking place in Ekiti State. We'll take a breather now, and we'll be back in a few minutes to continue with our discussion.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has distributed all sensitive materials to the 16 local government areas of Ekiti State. The development followed the Commission's reception of the sensitive materials from the Central Bank of Nigeria on Thursday. The exercise witnessed heavy security presence inside and outside the Central Bank premises in Ado-Ekiti to forestall any breakdown of law and order. Fielding questions from newsmen after leading party agents to inspect the sensitive materials meant for the 16 local government, the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner for Ekiti State, Professor Abdul Ganiyu Raji, spoke on the delivery.
Delivery of the sensitive materials, that is the ballot boxes, the ballot papers, and all the necessary forms that will be used to transmit the results. So we are here at the Central Bank at Ado-Ekiti, taking delivery of the materials, and the materials are moving straight to the necessary local governments for distribution.
Also speaking, the agents of the PDP and the APC spoke on the transparent inspection as the INEC Commissioner calls for the cooperation of all Ekiti citizens.
It was brought out from the strong room and it was displayed to all the party agents that are available. We've checked, they gave us a checklist, and from all indication they are one and the same. The checklist and the materials brought out from the CBN, they are one and the same.
The process, I know we've started well, and I pray we end well, because to me so far so good. It has been transparent, so open. The checklist was provided for each and every agent, and we are all okay with it.
I don't have any other thing that I would tell the people of Ekiti State, that I enjoyed living with them. They have cooperated so much, so I still want their cooperation until that Sunday and thereafter. So if we cooperate, we are going to have a free, fair and credible election. We have resolved that we are going to conduct a free, fair and credible election. So we are here today with all the party agents to come and see what we are doing. They are seated there, and so we don't have anything to hide.
The inspection of the sensitive materials was witnessed by the 35 party agents in the state amid security present.
This election is turning on its own, and I want to refresh your memory that the last election we had in Anambra, we deployed 26,000. We never went there to oppress. We never went there to militarize the place. And we also had some shortfalls. There were 1 or 2 isolated cases of ballot snatching because of the lack of presence of the security operatives. Our trade analysis and the activities we're going to perform, this 30 that you are going to see, I assure you that there will be no occupation of areas that characterize that of dominating and intimidating. You will never see any such, and take me for my words. And I told you I had 26,000, and that was not enough for Anambra, an exercise that has just finished. Trade analysis, activities, we also want to protect national assets. We want to protect and ensure that everywhere that there's supposed to be presence of police to guarantee civility and total participation by the well-informed citizen of Ekiti. The only way to do that is to ensure that you put men where there are threats, and trade analysis have said. You are not going to say anything different from what you will go around to see today. Both sensitive and non-sensitive materials have already been delivered. We're going to secure that. We're going to be very robust. We're going to post 4 police officers in a polling booth and 2 other officers from other security agencies. There are 5 inlets and outlets into this state. We're going to ensure that there is a static point where randomly people will be searched to ensure that those that are coming have something to do with election, and not those of them that want to precipitate crisis and raise the bar of security challenges for us. You are going to have a very, very calm and a very, very serene environment for people to exercise their franchise, and nothing more.
situation for Ekiti is good, though we have not witnessed such number of police officers and security men like this before. But they are doing their job, and there is no harassment of anybody, and I think the security situation is perfect.
The polling unit in front of at Demoro here, they were trying, the APC people giving voters money. They said they should vote and come to the backyard to collect 5,000 naira, which is illegal. They did not allow people to cast their vote to the right person, to the people of their choice. They are canvassing them that they should come and collect money by voting for APC, which is wrong.
So far so good. As at the point of this interview, things have been going on well. And in terms of security, it has also been perfect. But however, you know, in any election, there will be one pranks or the other by politicians. So on my way coming to Afao this morning, at a community known as Are, I discovered there was a sort of people running a skater. So I had to stop and decided to find out what exactly was going on. So the information I got there was that some security operatives stormed a house there based on the information that some people were sharing money.
There's nothing like that in Are. So though some people, most of PDP, they are trying to intimidate us, but we are trying to settle the matter. There's no problem. So now you can see the exercise is still going on now. So they are voting, the voting and everything is going very well.
Right, that was a special package sent by one of our correspondents in Are, Ekiti. All right, back to the studio. Dr. Dele, I would like to, maybe you've heard about the electronic transmission of results. INEC said that will happen this time around. What's your reaction to that?
Well, ordinarily, I should be excited because the claim of the INEC is that the election, voting, accreditation and voting will start simultaneously, and that at the conclusion of the election in each polling unit, the collation will be made, and the results will be scanned and sent to the collation sector at the local government. And the local government will send to the state, and then there will be aggregate collation, etc. But beyond the claim of INEC, is INEC competent? Does INEC have the resources and the technical capability, to transmit all of the results electronically? Does INEC have provision for manual transfer where electronic transfer fails? And what happens where electronic transfer fails? Along the line, what will be the implications for the return time for the results?
But don't you think for INEC to make that kind of declaration and announcement, that means INEC is prepared for the tax ahead? Don't you think so?
Yeah, but we made the point earlier. We've had this issue about voter card, though in some few locations, and some of the reports, gave feedback that there are some levels of doubt. And considering that the technology is not foul-proof, and we've not had the test run in any election in Nigeria, it is novel. So there's a basis to have a fair. There's a basis to have a fair that we expect and we hope that this will not delay the process and it will not marginally or concretely affect the outcome of the elections in terms of the return time. There's a basis to have that fair. More so, we've not had the experience. It's novel, it is new. We've not had it. It's a claim, and the concrete reality in terms of the application, the process, might be different.
I saw you smiling, when we mentioned the electronic, thing, you seem to have a doubt.
Well, my problem is this. You experiment manual thing, you didn't perfect it. Carry that in some places are not working, in many places it works. And then you have now come out of that problems, you now want to go again to electronic something. And that one is even dangerous because if anybody manages it very well, once you press the wrong figure, it gets to the other hand and the error continues like that in a drove. I agree that we cannot remain static as a nation, we must develop. But when we talk about development, it's not an imaginary thing. We must see the level of preparedness. We must see the level of the fact that we are sincere and we believe in what we want to do and we want to do it to satisfy a particular group of people. Otherwise, if we still go back to the same problem and the same bad result. That's why I was laughing, because if we have not managed the one we're doing very well, and then we're going to graduate again, it's like a disaster waiting to happen, and nobody will accept the result.
Okay. All right, Doctor, let me stay with you on this. Our correspondent has also spoken on the level of security so far, vis-a-vis the 30,000 plus security personnel over there. Is this justifiable so far?
Well, I suppose there are 50,000 security personnel in Ekiti, 30,000 policemen, and 20,000 others, which includes the DSS, Civil Defense Corps, the military, and so on and so forth. You recall there's been recurring debate about policing election in Nigeria, militarizing election in Nigeria, and to what extent does it become over-policing? And to what extent does it translate to militarization? You recall in 2014 Ekiti election was particularly, heated. There was a debate around the Ekiti elections. You recall that the People's Democratic Party was the party at the center, and the party was alleged to have extracted federal influence to the extent that the military became heavily involved in the election. And they equally felt that the military ordinarily should be bothered about external security, and it's dangerous, critics felt, to involve the military, which ordinarily should be non-political in the political process. But there's this other side to the argument that the 2014 election was particularly so heated. And there were fears that, to the extent that critics felt that the Ekiti elections needed military presence to dispel, private armies that were organizing to invoke violence on the election. But on the whole, we said earlier, and I'd like to restate it, that the stake, for these elections are the high. And I suppose I explained the presence of the police. But the question is, does Ekiti require 30,000 policemen to secure free and fair election? That's the question we should be asking. And I'm told that in terms of the arithmetic, 30,000 translate to 10 policemen per one voter and per one polling unit. Will this create scare in the voters? Will it intimidate the voters? Will it discourage voters from leaving their homes, etc.? These are the questions we should be asking. But I suppose from the reports we got, the police have been civil, the police have been friendly, the police have assisted the voters to locate the polling units. And the initial expectation was that the police would intimidate and harass and repress. But it's certainly now that the police has not been repressive, and the voters are somewhat relaxed and they're going to vote. Well, maybe the police presence in this case has not been a disadvantage to the election. The question we should be asking is about the military. What has been the role of the military in Ekiti 2018 elections? I'm aware that the soldiers are on the fringes of the state and they're not directly involved in the elections. And maybe the presence is also meant to dispel the prospect or probability of political violence. But the question still remains, should we at any point in time involve the military? If you ask me, I would prefer we did not involve the military at any point in time, in the political process. Rather, we should rethink how to reduce the stake and the level of contestation, the view to reducing the threat of violence. We should, at every point in time, work at reducing the violence threat level, you know, in the elections. These are my takes, sir.
All right, Barrister, do we need this high figure, perhaps, if we have elections going on simultaneously across the states in the country?
Well, first and foremost, given the number of policemen in Nigeria, even if you want it for whatever reason underlined, we don't have it if elections are going on simultaneously. So I think the beauty of the indulgence we have now is because we are conducting elections only in Ekiti State. But my take is this: why do we need such number of policemen? If you say to me, the boundary between Ekiti and other states in Nigeria should be policed. From our political experience in the past, where election in Osun State, we have people from Oyo State, from Ogun State, come in a day before the election to come and cast votes illegally, which will constitute electoral malpractice. I agree. They could be at the border towns overnight, you know, because even national elections, some borders of the West African coast is close so that foreigners will not come and vote in the Nigerian election. You see what happened in America now, the influence of Russia in the election between Trump and Hillary Clinton. But the prelude to the election of today is what makes the whole thing suspect. If a DIG will determine which of the properties can do rally at a point in time, I think they went quite overboard. That shouldn't be their business. And then you say, if the two of them are doing rally at different places, it's going to be, for crying out loud, 30,000 policemen. You mean you can't send 15 to Oluyemi Stadium, another one to wherever PDP is doing its own on the same day? You cannot choose for the parties when they should have the political rally. That is what is called militarization or politicization, if you use police. You cannot choose and say, this party must hold its own now, you don't do your own. You don't know what their supporters need. They are their supporters. And for the process to be credible enough, everybody should be given a level playing ground. If you say, I'm not by 2 o'clock, and after they have finished their own, rain starts falling, who will not say you conjure rain, even with your gun or baton? So they shouldn't get involved. And I don't like issue whereby a police officer will be challenging the sitting governor in the state of Nigeria. Nigeria is a comic. Look at this issue of Fulani Headman. One guy called Jima, the police bureau, will be telling the governor elected in the state, but what should you go and do anti-open grazing law? What did you have? It's too much. These guys are barely trained. And then a House of Assembly, known to Nigerian Constitution, elected the governor, put a house in place. Ordinary police officer will say, why, go and repeat that law, we cannot manage your state. It can only happen under Idris, properly by Buhari. And that's one why I supported by Buhari, because I voted for him. I campaigned for him. I thought he would be more circumspect and more serious a person than that. By policemen under you will go overboard and they'll be challenging the authority of a governor of a state in Nigeria. It's unfortunate.
You know, some have even come out to say that why take about 30,000 when we have some troubled states in some part of the country where these men or these security agencies should be. I
agree with you. We misuse them. You see, why they would do that is
okay,
that.
Okay, just a minute. I think we have our correspondent Adeola standing by. Adeola.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm very fine.
Can we have a first-hand account of what is happening in your location?
Yeah, as we speak, I am in Morocco.
Okay.
And from what we have observed so far, everywhere is cool and calm. Voting started as early as 8 o'clock. Voting and accreditation were done simultaneously. The INEC officials, they came to their location at the right time. There has been no complaints so far.
Okay.
People have been coming out to exercise their franchise. And so far, so good. The process is still going on. The security officers, we have patrols going around. But one thing that is very crucial in this election that has been observed is inducement of voters. We have seen youths complaining that they will not cast their votes until their palms are greased. People are openly demanding for money before they exercise their franchise.
So if that is the case, they allow, what are the security, agencies there? What are they doing about that, so that it won't, cause a kind of, it won't discredit the exercise?
I'll tell you, it looks more like an organized crime. People are demanding money far away from the polling booth. The polling booth is located a distance from where people are making open demands for money. And that is the reason why security agencies, they were only sent in there to secure the votes and the electoral materials and to ensure security of voters. So the people doing business are far from them.
All right, what can you say about the functionality of the card reader?
Well, so far so good. The card reader around Iworoko Ifaki has been effective. I have been to about 9-10 polling units today. There has not been complaints. Nobody has complained of malfunctioning of card reader. There are few instances where the card reader will recognize the name of the person to bring the name out. But I only know how it was programmed. The presiding officer, they have a form that they used to fill in such special cases. And the polling agents, the party agents said they are satisfied with the processes.
Okay, from your observation, what can you say about the level of security in that place? Having 30,000 policemen deployed to Ekiti, can you tell us how many do you have in that location?
I've been to about 10 polling units, as I said, and I have noticed the presence of policemen, at least 4 in each of the locations, each polling unit. There are other special forces patrolling across the places. And I've also noticed there are security agencies that have blocked certain exits and entrances to each of the communities where I've been to. Before you go into the community, you are checked. What is your mission? Are you accredited by the Independent National Electoral Commission for the purpose of these elections? You present your identification and everything. If it is genuine, you are allowed into the community. And the same process when you are coming out of the community. So far, there have been no issues around this place.
Okay, Diola, what has been the conduct of the party agents so far?
The party agents, there are few places where party agents insist on assisting aged people who will not be able to identify where they are voting for. But that has been taken care by the security agencies and INEC officials on ground. The presiding officer of such location is asked, once you ask the old man, who do you want to vote for? And he tells the presiding officer, the presiding officer's responsibility is to show the person where to thumbprint, not that of the party agents. So the role of the party agents in the elections today is to observe the processes and the conducts.
So far, so good. The agents, have they been impressed with regards to the conduct?
Yes, John. The agents said they were impressed with the conduct of the elections.
All right, let me ask you, Diola, in terms of mobility, has it been so easy for voters to move from their destination to the polling units?
It's not the reason. Most people that are not voting at the state capital left the state capital yesterday. Because today, there is no movement of vehicles.
All right. Diola, thank you very much for that update. We'll get back to you later for more updates. All right.
You are welcome.
All right. Okay, that was our correspondent, Diola, who called in from Ekiti as regards the election. I don't know why I love to put this to you, maybe because of your profession. You know, I would like you to provide some professional judgment to this. You know, our correspondent just talked about some people being, you know, attempts to induce people. Some voters were like, okay, until I'm persuaded, if I'm so-called persuaded, before I exercise my duty. Why will it get to that?
Well, you know, there's a sociology of election. And the sociology has to do with the people, who the people are, what they do for a living, the socioeconomic configurations, how rich they are, how poor they are, and so on. Ekiti is rural. I appreciate, you know, there's this often repeated talk about Ekiti intellectuals, Ekiti well-read people and the rest, but I suppose most of the well-read do not live in Ekiti, you know, and I'm not sure most of the well-read will be voting in the Ekiti elections. Most of the people who are voting, you know, are rural peasants and peasant farmers and youth who are unemployed and who are vulnerable to manipulations. This, I suppose, is a sociology, you know, of the Ekiti experience. That seems to be the experience in most of the locations in Nigeria. We should appreciate that, you know, we had structural adjustment program, which became post-structural adjustment program. You know, the economic policy in Nigeria promoted financial and exchange rate stability, but it has failed to foster social stability and social coherence. Most of the Nigerian people are poorer as a result of liberalization, commercialization, privatization, and the rest of it. We have more people who are unemployed. We have more people who do not have jobs. We have more who are homeless. Our real income are declining. Inflation level is on the increase, and so on and so forth. We have increasing level of dependent people and fewer people working. And the implications of all of this, the implications for voting, you know, and how people react at polling units and so on and so forth.
Now,
you
just raised a very vital point. You know, if you look at the class of people that vote in Nigeria, you have more of the so-called masses getting involved actively in politics, while the elites, you know, they stay back to be more of analysts, you know, you stay on social media and all that. Why do you think the elites are not that actively involved in politics? You know, behind the scene, you were telling me, you know, your interest. Some people are not interested in politics, but that determines, you know, our living and everything that has to do with, you know, the citizenry. So why is this so?
Well, it's unfortunate that we found ourselves in this case. If you remember, Reverend Father and now Bishop Hassan Kuka, he provided the theory of how the most indolent in the class seems to control everybody on the long run. Why is this so? True, life is about virtues, pedigree, what you believe in. Some believe that the family in fourth generation have not seen Mercedes-Benz or Jeep or even private jet. So they must do everything at all costs. Not only to buy Mercedes-Benz, but to buy Range Rover with bulletproof 120 million, to buy private jet. So that's the focus. And if you don't buy that idea, the very thing you do for living that hands you decent living and a comfortable way of life, you want to stick to it, because the process of getting to political position in Nigeria is very dangerous and very mean. If you are the person that's brought up to know that it's not good to take people's life, it's not good to tell lie against somebody and put him in jail unjustifiably and still go to sleep in your own house and fight for all these crimes, it will be difficult to operate in Nigerian political climate, because it's a question of whether you want to be that vicious so I can be governor. Why is Ekiti like this? Those people asking for money know what they're asking for money. Whether you are a governor, whether you are a minister, whether you are, it's the same story everywhere. It's about the allocation of the state, not about the people. If you say people ask for money, Ekiti, the issue of stomach infrastructure starts from Ekiti. It was so defined by the elite because maybe a government feels that the only way we can reach out to people now, for instance, federal government says now the Abacha loot that was recovered from all over the world, Switzerland, they will give the poor people a certain amount of money. And people say, no, don't give them. We will do developmental program for them. Let's give it to the governor. Let the National Assembly appropriate it. The National Assembly will say, okay, you want to appropriate, this is the condition for appropriation. Out of the money that is not even enough. That's number one. Number two, you give people money, some no rich does not believe that the poor must live. So don't give them the money because we will give it to them. Then the money found their way into their pocket. Even when you recruit people, look at common security agencies. In Galaxy now, if you go to one uniform security company, he says, give us 2 men, salary is 15,000. The man at your gate here in Galaxy might be earning 8,000 naira. From the money that was supposed to pay him, that you are paying as Galaxy to that company, a lot of money has been removed. So the guy has to steal your diesel to do your generator in Galaxy. Not due to your fault, but the system, as it were. So if you have an employee used in Ekiti and they know that the only thing they get from government is promises that will never materialize, then it's okay, before I vote today, give me what I can get. Because tomorrow I know I will not see you. If I join civil service, I'm not sure I will be paid salaries. It's a very wrong thing for young people's psyche, you know, that they reduce themselves to bread and butter before they vote. But you can't blame them. It's the society at large, the political class. If I know that my governor will do industries where I can go and apply for a job, if he wants to give me 5,000, I will say, okay, take the money. I know tomorrow when you become governor, you will do us well. But nobody has been able to stand in that position now. Why are they still talking about Awolowo after how many years? Awolowo is long dead. Because in Western region, all across the places, you see Odua conglomerates, people get job, no matter how little you hand a living. Teaching was made popular. Today, teachers are the most poorest in Nigeria. If you enter a secondary school in Nigeria now, you see 14 cars. 12 of them belong to women, and these cars were bought for them by their husband because their take-home cannot even bring them to school the following day. When you live in societies like that, income, per capita income is disoriented, is disjointed, people cannot but misbehave. I see it as misbehavior. You come and tell me, give me 2,000 naira before I vote for you, because you believe that all you are worth, even you as an aspirant, is 2,000 naira. That is all you can do for me, which means that they already realize that they are lying to them. Manifesto is of no consequence. It's a mere slogan. They will never ever do it. So when you have a harem of young graduates who have come to realize that, then it presents danger for the country. And that's why General Obasanjo, with his own imperfections too, will say, I'm afraid when these youths, there will be implosiveness from their part. The country cannot sustain it. We must do something about it. I bet you can never find a 70-year-old woman asking for money to go and vote. It's people between 18 and 25, 30-year bracket, people that they've lost confidence in themselves, in the country, in the system we run, and we continue to run it. If we must stop that, let us make political office part-time business. What will make a medical doctor abandon his stethoscope and make me a counselor? No, tell me, you abandon your hospital, you want to go to House of Rep, to go and do what? If a professional medical doctor, it's a shame. A professor of medicine will not even teach further doctors in Nigeria. He will go to the Senate and sit down and be dosing. The truth of the matter is this: no country run like this if you make politics a full-time business.
All right, I think we need to round off this session. I like your submission that we should make politics in a part-time business. Dr. Day, let me have your final thoughts on this, on the Ekiti election.
Well, the Ekiti election, pre-elections, the hypes, the fears were palpable, and there were fears that there could be violence, there could be implosion. But since the election started, we've had feedback about calm and somewhat peaceful election. The question is how peaceful. It's still early to draw conclusion about the peacefulness of the election. I'll be more interested in the integrity of the process. I'll be more interested in the sanctity of the electoral process in this sense. I also would expect, I'd like to get the feedback and the reactions of the major political actors post-elections. Would the elections, the result of the election be accepted? Will it be contested in the court? Should we expect litigation post-election and so on and so forth? Well, on the whole, the question we should be asking is Nigeria consolidating democracy? You know, but I have fears that we might appear to be consolidating democracy, but there are also equally forces that are de-democratizing the polity. The economic question and the pervasive poverty is a major threat to the democratic process.
All right, I really want to appreciate you for being part of this session. You know, interestingly, Dr. Dele Barrister Dele, you have things in common. You're putting on the same outfit. I hope you won't start the same business.
Or the same political party.
All right, we'll wrap it up for this session, and we'll be back later in the day to give you more updates. Sure.
I depart this ranch to return some other day, and I hope such evil never repeats.
I must have a taste of you, Milo.
The gods love classes, and they arrange them. These are good assets.
The gods often create us in duplicates.
As far as I know, I do not exist.
Peter Shoton, what do you know about your mistress' voice?
How dare you stand over me, towering like a giraffe?
You have turned our magnanimity into stupidity! And for that, you must pay!
Stop whispering! You big-headed.
Were you not always the one telling me of how she tormented you? And you acted like a log of wood, even on the mat.
I am going to slay that fat witch and crush that goon of ours. Look, you better bring your voice down before you bring untimely death to yourself.
Who is this man to question my reasoning when I decree a thing? Who are you?
I am a Jado! The eagle that dominates the sky!
Am I the leopard that attacked
you? No, these are hungry-looking lizards!
Slaves are necessary, just like the rich men in a society.
I mean, I saw you sleeping with the master's wife. Do not speak sacrilege. What's her feelings?
Can I say jealous? And she has even threatened to kill me. That's Nick.
Oh, evil!
Tread with caution, Asha.
This slave is a dangerous one who stirs dangerous dust.
Banco is worse than a viper.
Nothing controls me.
My soul knows no rest when it conflicts with evil. I can barely keep still. Everybody out!
Evil dreams are often the bane of slaves. Such act is punishable with death. I will bring down the heavens! I'll bring down the skies!
Nothing can ever be worse than this level of hopelessness.
I gave your mother my word that I will protect and lead you into greatness, even more than your father.
No!
One day, I will walk.
It is so painful.
I learned that the Jezebel don't aim for another bigger fish.
You two know each other?
Yes!
I don't want to let cause on that man that impregnated us.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers. You? If he denies it, I'll come to Lagos.
Haven't I been a good husband?
It's not about you being a good husband or being a good father. It's about you betraying my love for you today. Why can't I be well again?
Yeah, 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 JG. Yeah, Bruce Lee with the bars. Jagger. Yeah. NIG, stand up and think about the wonders all these rhyming brings. A lot of things could happen behind the scenes. Unmasked, show them what's really going on. This is how you make a video to a song. Creative visuals, looking all glamorous, but this is what happens at the back of the cameras. Unmasked, get a better understanding. It ain't a walk in the park, the job is so demanding. Take a step, associate with this excitement. The light's the brightest, character advertisement. Galactic, so it's only right you watch it right here. Galaxy TV, yeah, we make it quite clear. Yeah, get acquainted, orientated. This is complicated. Yeah, get educated. You watch a galaxy. This is reality. An insight to expression and personality.
Unmasked, revealing the realities of musical videos.
Miro Lalo Padilla is played by the director of a media company, High Five, editor of the famous magazine Dawn, and has many women around him. Romina, who is in love with Lalo, decides to punish his lack of commitment to her.
You have no idea who you're messing with, Lalo. I swear you'll regret it.
She hires a witch to cast a spell on him, which turns him into a very beautiful woman, as Romina wanted him to know what it is like for a woman who is being harassed.
Ramiro Lalo Padilla.
His age?
34 years old.
Repeat after me. Nothing keeps its shape.
Keeps its shape.
All things are transformed.
Lalo awakes as a woman in a state of utter confusion. However, Lalo's friend Graciela Neira believes what happened as she heard Romina's phone call to Lalo's home saying what she did. As it seems unlikely anyone else will believe that Ramiro has been magically transformed, so Ramiro assumes a new identity, Dolores Lola Padilla, cousin of Lalo.
Lalo sent me over. Didn't he tell you about me? Hello, I am Lola Padilla.
Lalo had to make an urgent trip to Germany because his father became ill and has appointed Lola to take his place. While trying to find a way to change back, there are a whole new set of challenges to face that Lalo didn't have to experience before, both within and outside the world.